All right, bro. So recently I actually went out of my way and I checked out Astrobot. It's this platformer game that came out on PlayStation. When I was seeing the trailers, I was saying to myself, this looks actually pretty good. As a platformer, it looks very innocent, non-politically driven. Astrobot just looks like a fun, kind of quirky character, and the game looked genuinely creative and enticing and like eye-catching for sure. And when I looked at the game, so I checked it out, I watched it, and I saw a good portion of the game, most of the game. So like in some way this is kind of a review, but I didn't play the game. So again, I didn't play it, so take everything with that aspect in mind. The world was great to look at. The levels were so creatively designed, terrifically well made. I mean, it feels like a cinematic platformer. There's a bunch of Easter eggs, by the way, to a bunch of older games. And it's kind of sad because it's like it reminds you of all the games that Sony used and other franchises outside of Sony. A bunch of franchises that used to exist before this era of deconstruction and the death of all of our franchises. But we have Star Fox, we have Metal Gear characters, we have a bunch of characters from a bunch of games that nobody even knows about anymore or talks about. It really sucks, but the game just feels like this walking cultural iconic blast from the past. It brings you to all these different worlds. Dude, Nathan Drake, there's a Nathan Drake level in this game, which is awesome. I love Uncharted, and they blast you from the past on that character, and you're like, ah, frick. I miss characters like Nathan Drake, man. We don't have that anymore, sadly. By the way, Uncharted 3, my favorite game, but it was a really eye-catching game, enticing game. It's a game I looked at, and I was like, a lot of love. It's clear a lot of love went into making this game, and this game just feels like a game. It feels like it was made to be a game. It was made in love of gaming. It looked so redemptive of the gaming industry, and again, it wasn't massively woke, and they do some call to certain characters in Last of Us 2. Not Abby, thank God, and also God of War Ragnarok, which I absolutely hate those two games, but I'm not gonna knock them for it, okay? But again, the game is so cinematic. It's a cinematic platformer. Now, I've heard some people who play the game, they've criticized it and said it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of depth to the controls and like what you can do in the game itself. So they say it kind of seems like a bare bones play experience because there's not a lot going on, but I will tell you this. There's a lot going on just in the platforming of the game, and it's really creative in all the platforming too. There's a lot of bosses at the end of each level, and the bosses are very creative. They did a great job with the boss design in this game, so I have to praise the game on that alone, that the bosses are really well done, really creative, really quirky, a lot of personality, a lot of character, and again, it looks like an absolute experience. It is an absolute experience. It's cinematic platforming, and they did a great job at that. By the way, there's secrets in the levels that you can find, really well done there. I just find that a lot of what they did with Astrobot, this is a game that was made with love. This is a game that was made to not waste your time. None of the levels overstay their welcome. You go through the levels and then you get out. And like everything goes for as long as you pretty much would expect it to. So they did a great job with the pacing of the game. It doesn't feel like it's too long, too short. Again, there's a lot of jam-packed secrets and details thrown into every single level. And there's all these different mechanics to interact with too for each level. There's certain mechanics, like for instance, you have to water a tree, you go inside the tree, there's a level inside the tree, a mini level. So there's all kinds of things. There's a lot of stuff that you can interact with. There's these leaf platforms that you can spawn beneath yourself, and you can cross gaps by doing this. And also there'll be these little wind streams that you can spawn that platform on, and then you go up through the wind stream. So that's pretty cool. There's a bunch of creative things about this game, and I love it. Again, beautiful game, and there's just so much that Astrobot does well. You know, I said that Black Myth Wukong, Space Marine 2, Stellar Blade, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are the 4 games that are absolutely worth your money this year. However, when we're looking at a lot of these main titles coming out, I don't know, maybe there's some indie games that have come out that are also worthwhile, but I would say if you're kind of like looking for other games to pick up, I'm just gonna say it, and if you're interested in platformers, this game seems to be one of the better games that has come out this year. Oh, and hold up, before I head out, what the frick? Also, the music in this game, really well done. I just want to include that as well.